Of King Zone Dragon X, who the favorites were.
KT roster.
We are here live. It's me, Valdez, with LS. LeBlanc. We're going to be jumping into SANDBOX up against Gen.G, and of course it is the second to last day of the regular split, so some things on the line in terms of relegations and also playoff spots potentially for SKT later.
Yeah, and SANDBOX today going up against Gen.G, I'm sure most people assume that SANDBOX will continue showing good form, but will Gen.G have anything surprising for us here in the last few weeks, or last few games of the season?
Yeah, I mean, I like the way you put it, because SANDBOX has definitely been a bit of a question mark towards the end here of round 2, where they're starting to drop games against teams that they were beating in round 1 and not looking quite as solid as they did earlier on in 9.1 and 9.2 meta. Whereas Gen.G, I mean, they were the first team to defeat Griffin, and they've been slowly moving on up on the backs of guys like Ruler and even Peanut playing pretty well for their team. So could be an interesting match, even though on paper, as you guys do see, SANDBOX down here for wild card that is set. Even if they do win today, they cannot catch up to King Zone, so they're set here for 4th place up against Gen.G, who are in 7th and would like a win today to just boost themselves away from relegations.
And this is honestly just, it's coming down to more so the relegation war.
Yeah.
Where KT will play tomorrow against Damwon, and that'll be the final match of the 2019 spring split. And Jin Air, I mean, you ready to go beyond the event horizon,
Yeah.
Valdez?
Well, I wish I could join you, but it is going to be Atlas joining you for that matchup tomorrow. Should be a fun one. Jin Air versus Griffin, our 89th match of the LCK Spring, 89th of 90. But we're going to have to get through 87 and 88 today. SANDBOX versus Gen.G. Going to be our first one coming in tonight.
Well, see what rosters are being fielded tonight for Gen.G in just a second here. But first, we'll take a look at the last 10 matches. Gen.G, they did have a 2-0 win over FLICKR, but then fell to Damwon. Whereas SANDBOX, you can see they've been a little bit all over the place. They did manage to beat KT and Hanwha Life, which obviously most people would have assumed them the favorites for, but they did fall pretty decisively to Griffin and SKT.
Yeah, and honestly, there aren't a lot of top teams that are dropping games to KT. You know, it sounds weird to say, but even that 2-1 win against KT was not clean. Right? So it's all of these questionable matchups where, yeah, they're taking 0-2 losses pretty heavily against the better teams, but then also not just crushing and being the flat-out favorite up against some of those lower teams. So SANDBOX, they kind of have something to prove to themselves and to the fans out there that they deserve to be in playoffs, and they are actually a contender for getting up there in the top spots of the playoffs.
And looking at some of the match points here, Gen.G has to fight desperately today. 6th win will guarantee their spot in the next LCK split. So this is potentially a very do or die for them here. And then Fly's Lissandra had an 8-2 record, but it's now on a 5-game losing streak versus Sion, Corki, Morgana, and Talia. And not talking about Fly, but those champions are very interesting. The champions that have been coming in to answer Lissandra. And they're all nothing that probably anyone would have expected a couple of weeks ago to answer the mid lane meta, but they are all coming in. Surprised, you know, one of the things that I'm looking forward to later is your friend and mine, Kayle.
Yeah, good old Kayle.
Good old Kayle.
No doubt we'll see her tonight, especially as
we're gonna
had
get it.
A bunch of success so far. And I know you have your opinions on good old Kayle.
I got more salt in the Pacific tonight, Brendan. Don't you worry. But we take a look at the team stats first, and no surprise there, SANDBOX Gaming first in the damage per minute. This team really likes to skirmish. They like to fight. They like to gank. And so it's no surprise that they are up there in that, whereas Gen.G, not the best stats.
Yeah, you can see that the bottom one is kind of an interesting one we haven't seen. That SANDBOX is actually 10th in opposing team dragons, and that means that they give up the least amount of dragons out of any team in the LCK. So kind of an interesting one. You talked about their early game aggressiveness can lead them to getting objectives such as that. See some of the highlights here. We just saw Talia in that one CT about going in the mid lane up against the Lissandra, and already a bunch of different members here have had some success in the LCK with that pick.
These fights are actually a little bit hard for me to track, to be honest, from the side lane view.
Yeah.
It is always interesting when the camera angle does that. Taking more highlights here, this time from Gen.G.
Yeah, we all know that corridor.
A
lot of teams like to get caught there, including Griffin.
There's Kayle doing Kayle things right there. And the Baron. Ruler trying to do his best. And this series was honestly, it was something. I was watching this, and I really didn't know who was going to win for about 15 minutes. I just couldn't decide which team was going to get their act together first.
Yeah. So it felt like neither team really wanted to win, and then finally some team was like, I guess I'll win if you really want me to. Again, this was the series with your good friend Kayle, and well, if you get at a range of her, you can actually kite her quite well, even if she is level 16 and she's not free dealing. So you can see here some of the damage numbers. Obviously, Ruler is super high, but surprising to me is Ghost is that low for 80 carries in terms of damage percentage. I mean, I remember the early stages of round 1. This guy was picking up Draven, he was getting Lucian, and he was going balls to the wall. He was getting so much damage and really carrying his team, but now it's been kind of downhill for this young 80 carry that, I call him young, but he has been around for quite a while here in Korea, and we'll see if he can go up against Ruler, who is definitely a guy in the bottom lane that is not an easy opponent.
Well, we'll have to see what Ghost can actually do today, because I think that most people's eyes will be on Ruler to try to carry Gen.G here against SANDBOX. interesting to me that they did not bring up the top lane comparison, because Summit, I talk about this almost every single time I cast SANDBOX. He's one of the less spoken about powerhouses that exists in the LCK. Arguably, I would even say top 3 top laner probably in the LCK.
It's not easy to do with all the top laners that we have, but I suppose you wouldn't be including Sword into that top 3, as, you know, Griffin definitely a top team, but has been showing their one weakness, really, in recent times, even yesterday, with Sword having a rough couple of games. But we're going to focus here on Gen.G. You mentioned how Ruler is the carry. He kind of feels like the new Teddy in 2019. Teddy, the days of old on Jin Air, just desperately trying to carry his team, and Ruler, for a lot of this split, has been trying to do exactly that when the other guys on his team have not exactly been showing up.
We'll have to see if he can do anything here today, as nice CG right there, as the portraits all drop on the flags. Yeah. And it will be SANDBOX starting off on the blue side, so one of the things that Gen.G can take comfort in is knowing that they have counter picks available to them if they want to utilize it in either the mid lane or the top lane. And that could really help them here in game number 1, knowing that Summit might just have to take a slightly less than favorable matchup in top. And perhaps Fly gets access to something good for him so that he can try to help Ruler or offset any of the pressure on the right-hand side of the map.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what Fly and Gen.G kind of prioritize for the mid lane, because that one point that we were talking about, the game points before this match started, was that Lissandra was really good for Fly, and everybody was criticizing Griffin for not banning it up against them and letting him just get his comfort pick and his winning pick over and over. But after that, he's lost a bunch of times in a row, 5 times in a row. Still feels like his biggest comfort pick, but maybe we'll see something new if he's not feeling that loss streak right now. So we're going to jump into pick ban now. SANDBOX, you mentioned, is on the blue side, and that Lissandra I was talking about is not even going to see the light of day here.
Interesting that Dove doesn't seem to want to be the one to pick it up. Wow, the bans are going very fast, and even though Lissandra was banned, Rise follows suit by Gen.G right away. Vayne very quick to follow, and Silas, your friend and mine, is now banned away by Gen.G.
He ain't my friend. I'm no fan of Silas, as he's been banned every single game since 9.6 has come in here, LS.
Ezreal also being banned away, followed by Jace. Jace is a surprising ban, ever since the base stat nerfs.
You think so?
Yeah. Really am not too sure why. I don't think that, yes, Jace is still a blindable champion, but it's a lot easier to manage him now. And Gen.G hovering. We're trying to get off on a right foot here.
Yeah.
I'm very excited, as LeBlanc is going to be blinded here by Gen.G. And Thomas being hovered and locked in. So now it's handed back over to SANDBOX, and when Tahm is locked in that early, you could go for a support pick that could bully him. You don't have to necessarily just handshake the Galio or Thresh or something like that.
I mean, you called what is something that's very common in LCK, though, you know? Kalista, Galio. I know it gets under your skin, but these teams, they love that combination, and it has done work in the past. So SANDBOX will be returning to that combo.
And so now at this point, you could just pick the jungler. You don't have to show your mid or top laner, and then maybe Gen.G tries to narrow down the mid champion pool just a little bit more.
Or you could pick...
Yorick is really interesting. Now, he was nerfed in the previous patch. Jax is still on the table. Will Roach actually just pick it up? Kayle against Yorick. I guess that she can activate her W when Yorick goes for the prison. I'm so excited to be here with you, Brendan. I'm sure that everyone listening right now is very excited.
Yeah, we're all really excited for Kayle. And LS casting Kayle. It's actually 1-1. I don't know why I thought it got a 2-0 start. I was actually casting the game at loss, but yeah, it's had a good game where it wasn't really punished and got off to a great start, and then it had kind of a mediocre game where it wasn't able to really follow up even after hitting level 16.
It's also had some, I mean, Kayle's been being picked in other regions as well. Some of the LPL games haven't been that hot. There was, I believe, a recent one last night, I think, in LEC, where she had an okay, well, not an okay, I mean, she was the primary carry of the team, but it was a 22-minute game. So...
Hey, at least she was ranged by the end of it, right? Right, LS?
All right, so now they're going to end up banning Zach and Lee Sin. The Kayle, I'm 99% sure is just going to go top here. I do not think this is a flex LeBlanc by any means. And so, Kayle against Yorick, not a matchup that I have seen, but I do suppose that it's going to be very difficult for Yorick to try to trap her. One thing, though, is that Kayle on red side could be in the long lane against the Yorick because you would assume that she would be the one pushing him in. That could be very scary against an aggressive jungler, or one that can close a lot of distance, and so I suppose that's why the J4 and the Zac are banned away. Now Olaf coming in. And so this is very interesting. There's a lot of aggression coming out from the mid and jungle on Gen.G, and maybe that's going to be to try to offset and allow the Kayle to scale up. Camille now talked about an aggressive jungler that could maybe punish Kayle inside of a long lane. Well, Camille would certainly be one of them.
It's OnFleek, too.
Kha'Zix.
Okay. Well, they're going to go for the Kha'Zix instead. I was feeling that Camille even after those pretty gutting nerfs because it is OnFleek.
Yep. Zoe's available. A lot of people think that LeBlanc is the counter to Zoe, but honestly, if the Zoe player is skilled enough, it's not really a counter. You just learn when to throw out the bubbles when LeBlanc goes for the distortions. And the matchup just keeps getting worse for LeBlanc later in the game. Kog'Maw!
He insta-locked that. He didn't wait at all. I was like, oh yeah, they're hovering Kog'Maw, and I'm like, wait, no. It's actually locked in.
I'm excited right now. That is the slimy bot lane.
Well, what do you think about Kayle and Kog'Maw on the same team? We saw, I forget who it was yesterday, decide to
everything Kayle aspires.
Who's that in the audience, by the way? I think I recognize that guy. I feel like I've seen him a couple of times. You know.
Well, Kog'Maw, this has been getting picked to quite some success in China. It's also a pick I've been very vocal about, even in spring 2019. I've mentioned that teams around the world have been neglecting this champion, and that he offers an insane amount of damage. People think Kayle does a lot of damage late game. They haven't seen her dad. All right, her dad is Kog'Maw.
What?
All right.
I was thinking brother or at least cousin, but
Kayle's a Nephilim. All right, we're rewriting the lore right now.
There you go.
As for the team composition that we have here, Kalista, Galio, Zoe, Kha'Zix, and Yorick. Obviously, it's going to be all in on the Zoe in the later stages of the game. And I really feel like that's what it's going to come down to. But the bot in top lane can definitely accelerate and guarantee that she gets there. Whereas now on the flip side, we got Kayle, Olaf, LeBlanc, Kog'Maw, and Sir Thomas Kench down there in the bottom lane to protect him.
Yeah. Knighted by the queen herself.
She was here. They just didn't show her on camera that one time.
That's why he wears the top hat.
Yeah.
He knows he's classy. Well, guys, it looks like we're ready to hop into game number one. SANDBOX versus Gen.G. Gen.G fighting to stay in the LCK. Let's hop into it. Gen.G fans out there, not wasting, or not keeping back any of their energy desperately, trying to cheer on their team to the victory. If they do win this, they will avoid relegations and stay in the LCK. Whereas SANDBOX, doesn't matter if they win or lose, they will be in 4th place and in that wild card match up against Tahm. So, fighting for pride here, as you must be pretty familiar with that skin, LS.
The chicken Galio?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that what you call it, the chicken Galio?
Yeah. It's quite a fascinating skin.
Yeah.
It's a rubber ducky. Absolutely love him. We can't hate on the reindeer Kog'Maw. This is really bad for Fly.
Yeah, this is awful.
Oh, man. All right,
oh,
well,
boy.
mid lane is officially
Can
over.
I get another one?
Mid lane, for the most part, should be over now, unless jungler interference comes in. Dove should be able to just have such an enormous lead off that initial trade that it should be impossible to salvage without Peanut's assistance. Down here in the bottom lane, we have Kog'Maw and Sir Thomas.
Interesting. What's your take on that one, Olaf?
Kog'Maw in the later stages, he tends to fight within a burst timing. There's about a 6-second window where he wants to get all of his damage out and he has to fight within it. And then after that, it's sort of like a boxing ring. You go back to your corner until that is back up. And then you fight inside of it again. So honestly, I don't hate the Hail of Blades that much. I also do think that it gives him some early game potency and allows him to punch back against champions that would otherwise be able to bully him. So really don't think it's that awful.
Yeah. Consider other options, like we've seen all the other precision tree takes outside of Conqueror.
Fleet footwork for Kayle.
Yeah, that's
in the
also
top lane. So not Kleptomancy, which is going to be interesting.
Means he won't have the chance, the 3% chance to hit the extra level sooner.
Is it 3%?
I think it is 3%.
I've hit it so many times.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, you know what that means.
Means I've been playing Kayle. What do you mean? But the fleet footwork, I guess it will make Roach stronger in the later stages, but it's going to be that much harder to get to the later stages on the Kayle. And this is so interesting to see two hyper carries on the same team. So really, the onus is on LeBlanc and Olaf to carry them to that point. There is virtually no wave clear present right now on the side of Gen.G until Kayle would get to that level 16.
You can see even the Hail of Blades in lane is kind of interesting what you can do with that W once you proc it on the Kog'Maw. Just do a nice amount of harass and poke. Obviously, you're not going to be killing them, but you can discourage them from getting too close to you and offer yourself a little bit more safety that you already have with the Tahm Kench.
Well, bottom lane is shoving in here as Kha'Zix is in. Kha'Zix. Caught myself right there.
Oh.
Right.
I didn't know you knew the real name. That's good. You've been studying. That's good progress.
Oh, man. All right. Well, Ghost and Joker just slowly trying to get this wave into the turret here, as Ruler and Life are definitely content to allow this to happen. We have a gentleman's agreement in the jungle right now, though.
Yeah, everybody's just farming up as much as they possibly can. Nobody's really attacked any of the lanes until now. Peanut is level 4. He's hanging around the top side. But there is a ward in the Tri-Brush.
Bizarre gank timing by Peanut. It was looking like that could have either been anticipating a match or a counter gank, but there's such a large minion wave that there is no universe where Summit would just arbitrarily charge onto Roach amidst all those minions. He would definitely lose the trade. He's not even level 6. Summit actually just going to let Roach recall, which is very surprising. What a beautiful character Yorick is with that skin.
It's very pretty.
Yeah, it's
very, very shiny.
I wonder who his stylist is.
Yeah, who do you think?
I'm not sure. Quite fashionable. It might be Tahm.
Probably is Tahm.
Probably is. Have you seen his top hat?
Yeah, I know, it's crazy. Where'd he get that thing? He's gotta let me know.
No idea. Yeah. It's truly a mystery.
So are we gonna get a LS Tahm Kench cosplay sometime, or?
Yeah.
Yeah, eventually.
Yeah, it's gonna
we'll get there.
Yeah. Maybe 6 large pizzas a day.
Okay.
Half a year. I can eventually squeeze my way into that.
Yeah. Could also just, throw on the top hat.
I could.
Maybe wear one of his fancy coats. and you know, show up one day.
Well, that does sound like it could be an option here. Oh, taunt coming in, but not actually going to hit. They're probably just going to shove this wave in and then back off. No reason to get too frisky right now. We're having a complete gentleman's agreement here.
Yeah.
Across every lane, seemingly. This is the 200 IQ play, Brendan.
You think so?
This is it. It's you pick Kayle knowing that nothing is just gonna happen.
You would think the onus is on SANDBOX when they're going up against Kayle and Kog'Maw to try to accelerate this game and look for ganks, but they've done nothing of the sort. The good early game from Dove means that he's slightly ahead in CS, but outside of that, they haven't really even looked for a gank or any other opportunities on the map. So we just sit here at 7 minutes, and not even a plate has been taken so far.
Peanut now. I'm going to run into OnFleek in just a second. Oh.
Nice word.
Very good board. It's going to move over to the blue.
I feel like we're casting golf now. There's just nothing happening. It's like, oh, wow. What
have
a
you
ward.
seen
That's
the new movie Us yet?
No, I have not.
Okay. Well, anyone who's listening right now,
let me guess, I haven't seen it.
It's fantastic. It is amazing. Normally, the horror genre is very, it's drying up in recent years.
Yeah.
But once, you know, every so often something will come along that will shake it up. I do like that Us is a pretty good movie for the horror genre.
Did you see the first one? I think it was Get Out.
Get Out?
Yeah.
Get Out I thought was
good.
fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jordan Peele is, he's producing some good movies.
I know. It's really good stuff. I mean, he's been around for a while, but he decided, hey, you know, let's get in there and start directing stuff.
Yeah,
Why not?
let's stop doing comedy.
Yeah.
And
just dominate another genre.
he's dominating the horror genre.
Okay, OnFleek's going in now, but saw that little speck in the brush and knows that the Kha'Zix is nearby. So he'll employ Peanut to come over and clear out the ward.
Kayle's down 20 CS right now. Nothing has happened, although it does seem like there's a wave coming into her. So perhaps it's not exactly 20. And this isn't a matchup that you would have imagined Kayle would be favorable in, since Yorick can't actually kill you without you messing up. Oh, we got a trade coming in, but it doesn't seem like OnFleek was on the same page.
Yeah.
And so we're not going to see an extended trade right there happening.
They're also pretty far on the right side, just out of range. And of course it is the Tahm Kench, which you guys will remember they picked alongside LeBlanc in the first stage of their red side picks. So they knew their strategy from, you know, before they picked Kayle and Kog'Maw. Tahm Kench doing wonders in the bottom side to keep Ruler safe.
SANDBOX now starting the Mountain Drake. Ruler and Life are coming over.
That's the Clown Drake. They probably hope for a Mountain
They would
Drake
probably
to
hope for a Mountain.
accelerate this game and maybe go for a Baron and try to end things a little bit earlier than normal, but they're going to get an Ocean next.
Nice Ocean coming up. It really just completely captures the current mood of the game.
It really does. It's perfect.
Rainy day here on Summoner's Rift.
Yeah.
Nothing really happening.
We had a couple of sun showers earlier today.
We did.
There's not much happening in the game, so, you know, you can just talk about the weather now. There really isn't much else to talk about here. Everybody's just farming.
You know, I'm looking forward to seeing what's going to happen in the mid-game, because this is all just bottling up now.
Yeah.
Kog'Maw, Kayle, they're doing things. It does look like it will be Trinity Force Kayle. So we're not going to see the Blade of the Ruin King or the AP variation. And I will say that I do think that the AD Kayle is by far and away the best version of the Kayles that I have seen. Yeah. Rift Herald being started by Summit. The Maiden, Julia.
Oh no!
Julia.
Why did he sacrifice her? You gotta stick by your wife and you know, protect her, but he just cowered away in fear and left Julia to die.
We keep changing her lore.
Yeah.
First it was his daughter, then it was his wife.
I'm pretty sure in the lore it is his wife.
Is it?
Am I incorrect? I thought it was.
Okay.
Maybe that's just something people said that wasn't actually true.
This is fantastic. Big trade happening. All right, completely whiff on everything.
Yeah.
Truly encompasses how everything's been going thus far. 12 minutes in.
We thought we were going to have a game. But, you know, we've really just been playing Farming Simulator 2019.
Is that a good game? Have you played it?
We're playing it right now. This is this is the game. It seems all right. I don't know if I'd buy it, but
this is not what I was expecting when I got here today, and I knew that I would be casting SANDBOX game 1.
yeah, I know. We almost had some action there. There was one axe thrown. That's good.
Well, here we go. Maybe.
Okay.
Maybe.
Oh.
No.
Oh. He's thinking about it.
He's
Ruler came back.
Tip for tat. That's what's.
Oh, nice chains though. OnFleek in trouble. Trying to trade back some damage, but Peanut comes back and oh, nice block there. Dove trying to land that paddle star, and looks like
Harold
once
doing?
again Shelly's getting bored. She's going in the lane now, boys. She's had enough.
She just leaves the map.
She leaves it early. She's like, I'm calling in sick today.
Oh man. I wonder what's going through everyone's heads right now, though.
I know.
Is this the idea of a League of Legends? I don't even know what to think anymore. I feel like we're playing StarCraft No Rush 20.
Yeah.
You know what?
It's like both players went for a late game build and just expanded twice in the early game. And you're like, okay, well, we're not going to have anything to talk about for a good 10 minutes, guys. What is going on?
Is this
She's still out there.
Is this a bug or is she just bored?
She's trying to change the game herself. Okay, all right, she's back. We didn't get to see the resolution of the visual bug where she scuttles back into the pit. This is what I assume was going on.
It's very exciting down here in the bottom lane.
Okay.
You
Well,
know what I think everyone needs? We need
What's
Bob
that?
Ross to cast this.
Bob Ross.
Bob Ross could cast this. We're just not worthy.
Yeah, you know, sometimes I wish esports was kind of just like more laid back and less talking.
Yeah.
This would be the kind of game to do it in. But you can see in the bottom left, 800 extra gold does go the way of SANDBOX in plates. So although they weren't actually picking up any kills, they do get, you know, a first blood and an extra kill, basically, in terms of gold in the plates here. So it's doing a nice job of at least pressuring the lanes. I feel like I've seen this before.
Yeah, I have definitely seen this. I feel like Kayle's going to hit 16 during laning phase. That's going to be interesting. What a great game.
Yeah.
What a great game of League of Legends.
This is a good one. I like how they got the Rift Herald right as the plates came off, too. It's like, nah, you know, we got enough gold. We're actually okay. Let's see if SANDBOX can secure their Ocean Drake here. Long laning phase, so, you know, that's what everybody says is the most important thing for your Ocean Drake. Getting those laning phases in. But there just hasn't really been enough trading, realistically, for it to matter.
I feel like I'm trapped in the movie Get Out right now. That's what I actually think.
No, LS, you're one of us. You're not allowed to leave.
I'm having to watch what's going on here. Oh, man. All right. Any day now.
No. SANDBOX say, it's okay, Gen.G, you can have the Ocean Drake. We don't care. Although Joker is getting in range here. OnFleek's getting in there, is going to steal it, but he's got to use his flash after baiting Joker to heroic entrance in this one. Now they're considering going back in there. Peanut kind of just standing
They
there
might
and
be able to
taking
repel
one.
this.
And they're going to get on top of Life here. The taunt does come in. Cleanse having to be used here by Life. Nice amount of damage there on a ruler. First blood finally comes in at 16 minutes. And they're trying to go in here, but the clone is able to block a bunch of that damage on the backside. So we'll just be the
Now,
one kill
yeah,
and the push.
Rift Herald is going to be summoned here in mid lane. That's definitely going to be the mid-tier 1 turret going down at the very least. Will Shelly end up getting 2 charges here? Fly coming in, trying to offer a little bit of damage. Only does a sigil onto Joker, and that'll be the end of the push. One of my real questions, I guess, is if you're Gen.G, why are you ever picking Olaf when you know that this is just going to be the way that your early and mid game is always going to be conducted?
Yeah.
Because in about 25 minutes, Olaf's going to do the thing I like to call the Olaf special. And right now, what we're seeing on our screen here is OnFleek comes in, smites out the ocean, is going to flash anyway, but then Joker ends up using the Grand Entrance, but then Gen.G don't realize that they can't actually win the poke war here, as everyone was on clearly different pages. This was actually really nice. That was absolutely beautiful play by Life, flashing out of the way so that Roller could get hit by the Kalista ultimate.
Yeah. Did survive, and Life did die. As you can see what Hellablade's Kog'Maw is able to do. Doesn't necessarily need to have an immense amount of attack speed just yet. Just gets in your face, 1, 2, 3, and pop goes the Kalista.
And I really like this as well. Gen.G has 4 sources of magic damage on their team, but Kog'Maw's going Blade of the Ruin King first instead of Wit's End, so that he could give his teammates more damage as well as himself. So
yeah,
really just trying to play for the enemy team here is Kog'Maw. Now yes, Kayle is going the AD build, but some of her abilities do still deal magic. And so the amplification on a team that is very lacking in magic resist on the primary carries would certainly help out. As there's not going to be enormous amount of tanky stats on the side of SANDBOX, as it looks like we're potentially brewing for another team fight.
Gen.G have to be careful after that last one. That's going to be a double knockup already, getting that Galio on in there. That's that combination of Kalista Galio that you're going to get every single time, as they just ran into the corridor and unfortunately lost another life.
I see what you did there.
Second time.
Second time's the charm. All right, Kayle's at 13 at 19 minutes here. We'll see. A lot of people are probably just at the edge of their seat right now.
Yeah. I just
Can she get 16
for the conclusion of this game? It's really enticing.
Dove gonna shove in the Stop.
Hey, we just had a kill.
We did. Let's take a look here.
What's your take on this one, Olaf?
Well, my take on this one is that they're clearing out vision in a river which does not have a dragon present when already they're naturally going to be defensive.
Why did they go right instead of just going up after they saw the Fate's Call? That was another one I was wondering about.
Yeah?
I do that sometimes.
Wish I had an answer for you.
But
Yeah.
just maybe a bit of panic in the moment. Not going the correct way and just throwing the Galio right over the wall into a couple of guys that did not have summoners. And they were able to get punished for that one. So SANDBOX, although they didn't create much havoc in the early game, they have been able to pick up a nice little gold lead here at 3,000, 20 minutes into the game, so not half bad.
Well, SANDBOX pushing mid lane right now. Open Drake coming up in 20 seconds.
Oh, another one? Oh, boy.
Summoner Drift knows what kind of a game we got on our hands here, so do not fret. As there is about a 3,000 gold lead on the side of SANDBOX. And honestly, it's not that large of an advantage when you consider the Kog'Maw on the side of Gen.G.
And the Kayle eventually, you know. I feel like Gen.G are getting quite lucky to go up against Cloud, Ocean, Ocean, because if it was Mountain,
how do you
Infernal,
even beat it?
if it's Mountain Infernal, it's like, well, you get one pick on the side of SANDBOX, you run at Baron, and you have a Kalista on your team, and you have Mountain. You can kill it super fast, and you can accelerate the game so much faster, but without those kind of Drakes, it's going to be much harder to pull off that kind of play unless you get probably 2 picks. Maybe you got to get the jungler. It's going to be much more difficult.
Well, they're going to continue to wait here as Ruler's second item of choice is the rapid fire cannon.
What do you think is going to be number 3? Any bets on this one?
I actually don't even know at this point anymore. I genuinely don't. I feel like the itemization is beyond me at this point, as there is still no magic resist present on the primary carries of SANDBOX. So what's giving all your teammates a little bit of magic penetration?
Well, at least Kha'Zix got the memo. He's got Merc Treads, but that's about it, as you were mentioning. And yeah, just poking him out here in the red side jungle, trying to get as much deep vision as possible. Just standard things when you are ahead on the blue side. We'll see if SANDBOX can deny enough vision to work that into a pick. I feel like Life, even though he has been the brunt of the 2 kills here so far, is going to have a really important job to keep his team alive and well, so that SANDBOX cannot accelerate the game any further.
4,000 gold laid here now on the side of SANDBOX. Kayle, 14. And I'm just waiting, is something just gonna click? As soon as she hits 16, they just decide to start fighting. That's what I'm waiting to see. As, honestly, Gen.G has been rolling the best dragons they could have ever hoped for.
Another one.
To allow for this type of play style to occur.
It's, you know, it's quite lucky. That's part of the RNG with the Drakes that we do have in this game. I know a lot of people were talking about in the past the idea of, you know, showing what the first 3 Drakes, the first 2 Drakes would be so you can draft compositions around them. If Gen.G knew that these were going to be the Drakes, I feel like they would have hard auto-locked these champions even faster than they did. As the flash comes in, Devour is there. Life is going to flash away. Also does have the cleanse. Peanut, though, in a bit of trouble. Has to be healed, and Roach coming in. Just has to ult himself as he's got a Kha'Zix on his back. OnFleek going 1v2 right now, as he does have the Galio for the follow-up. Make that 3 kills, as SANDBOX are going to totally decimate Gen.G in that team fight. Looking for Ghost here, but that's not going to pay off for you. A very desperate attempt that almost worked out, but probably wouldn't have changed the Baron going down.
Now, this is an interesting spot where I guess the open Drakes are potentially beneficial, but I do think that SANDBOX is likely just to recall after capturing this Baron. They're all pulling a lot of gold right now. They've been on the map for quite a while. They just netted themselves quite a lot of kills.
Yeah.
As Ruler tries to attack Baron without attacking Baron, as he pushes in the mid-minion wave so they don't have a wave to utilize. We'll take another quick look at this replay. Gen.G up a little bit too far, pushing a wave that was guaranteed to come to them anyway. As Peanut flashing away there, Roach, Kayle doing Kayle things, aka absolutely nothing on the left-hand side of this. Getting absolutely eviscerated by a Kha'Zix 2 levels below her. And Peanut being picked off there right at the very end. And then Fly, you have to wonder what he's trying to do here. Well, it's trying to pick off Ghost, which honestly, he did come pretty close to succeeding at. Not able to in the end.
And in the picture-in-picture, we do see OnFleek assassinating another member of Gen.G, and this time it's going to be the Kog'Maw even. So both the hyper carries on the side of Gen.G can't get this bug off their back, as OnFleek, we were, you know, wondering about the decision to go for Kha'Zix, and so far the assassinations have been good.
Yep. Summit now pushing in the bottom lane. Roach, level 15, not quite 16, but honestly, it's just not going to matter anymore.
Yeah, I mean, they're so far behind at this point, and everything is just falling so fast on the side here of Gen.G. They're going to push double inhibitors immediately. They still have 2 minutes on Baron.
Yeah.
That happened in the span of a minute. They went back bot and immediately just pushed it down. Especially after getting that pick on a ruler, there wasn't much that Gen.G could do to stop it.
OnFleek coming over now, and he wants to eat the last Ocean Dragon, which I find so surprising, and I'll talk about why in a second. But first, we're going to talk about OnFleek Kha'Zix coming over and picking up.
라인 봐. 나 연차하면 바로 빤스런 가네. 걱정 마. Kog'Maw. 뭐야 저거.
Saying don't worry, and then he spots the Kog'Maw.
다 뚫다. 이번에 미드 바텀
sound so relaxed.
Yeah, it really sounds like he's playing a solo queue game,
Yeah.
just having a good time. And yeah, not a good field for Gen.G, but we said it before, at SANDBOX, I mean, they're locked into 4th place. They're just kind of playing for pride and for fun at this point. I'm sure they don't have anything specific against Gen.G, but they're not just going to let them win, of course. So they come in here and they're absolutely bopping them in the mid game.
Valdez, are we going to see it? Kayle has hit 16. The biggest Timmy champion is now on the rip.
Okay, finally, it's coming through.
Hold on.
Ruler is level 13. Does a nice amount of damage. Okay, here she comes. All right, we're on point with that. Let's see. Everybody eyes on Roach.
Cue the music. Doing less than Kog'Maw.
Hey, she was able to kill Julia there. That's true. Got some Baron minions. Just having a little bit of trouble with those. Now SANDBOX are just like, yeah, we're not really going to fight against you. We're just going to move over to the right side. We got the super minions now. We're looking to push in, and oh boy. Now Roach doesn't have any health. She's going to get hit by that Battle Star. That's more of a Zoe thing than a Kayle thing at this point. His life going to lose it once again, as he does come in to save Ruler's life, but he doesn't have the Kog'Maw, or rather the Tahm Kench, and pick after pick just coming on in. They're desperately trying to hold on to their base. Fly can't even kill OnFleek in the back line, and there's nothing he can do as he's going to go down. Kayle desperately trying to hold on to this one, but it's not going to matter. Level 16 or not, GG comes through in about 28 minutes.
And at the end there, they were just way too far behind, though, for anything to really happen. And I guess my end conclusion of this is when you're Gen.G, okay, I can understand the Kog'Maw to an extent. Ruler on a hyper carry, can you get late game? But then what is with the LeBlanc for Fly? Why does Gen.G continue picking Olaf? He's an early game only champion. The weird thing is that they never gank. They never do anything early game. And it's so bizarre that they would try to take an early mid jungle against SANDBOX, who are known for the early game.
Yeah.
And their willingness to get dicey early on. They tried picking Kayle into what should have been an okay Kayle matchup, but still lost the matchup anyway. Also fleet footwork on her, so...
Yeah. It's not even like she was catching up when she was down on farm, and didn't really look like the fleet footwork was absolutely necessary. We see OnFleek is packing up his stuff here, and
looks like they're gonna allow for a sub to come in.
We'll have to wait and see if that does come to fruition, as generally that does actually happen. Looks like Ghost's family is coming down here. We actually received some nice gifts.
We did.
From Ghost's mother. Some snacks, so shout out to the Ghost family and the SANDBOX family. You guys have made it into playoffs after coming up from challengers, and Ghost in his own right. You know, used to not be doing too much, not too successful. Now he's made it onto a good team and has been playing much better. So shout out to that whole family and the SANDBOX family. They're only up 1 game in this series. They haven't won it entirely just yet, as we're trying to bring all of the fan signs over here. Very nicely done. That's that must be Joker, and of course the coach on the right side. So good stuff. I like the themed posters that they do have going on. So I'll ask if you had to recommend that game to anybody, what would you say to them? What would you tell them about that game? What's your comments on game number 1? Is that it? Like somebody asks you about game 1, you just laugh. You just laugh at them. Yeah, I kind of felt that way for me too. You know, we're not gonna lie to you guys. That was not, you know, the tippy top of LCK in terms of entertaining games. Ruler is, you know, he's doing a lot of damage. He's struggling to carry, as always. But well, that's just the Gen.G story.
Almost a perfect game.
Oh wow, yeah.
Almost.
Just the one turret.
Yeah. Just the one turret taken on the side of Gen.G. Do you know who took it? Kayle.
Kayle. That's what Kayle does, right?
I mean, she tries so hard to carry her team, she just can't. It's always the teammates holding her back. That's what ends up happening.
She just tells them not to feed until she's level 16, and
That's
you know
what
they
happens.
never listen to her.
Yeah.
You know how many games of solo queue Kayle I've had where they go 0-5 and we win though? Solo queue is a different monster. It's pretty crazy, but in competitive, as we can see here, sometimes when you see the Kayle come out and you draft against it, you just say, well, we're gonna win the game before you are relevant.
Well, I'm just so curious who's coming in now in game number 2, but also, are Gen.G actually gonna draft differently because game 1 was a disaster?
Yeah, definitely a head scratcher in that one, so we'll hope that both the teams can go back to the drawing board and consider all that from game 1. We're going to take a quick commercial break before we do hop into game number 2, guys, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.